Dear community, this morning, how do you feel? Do you feel peaceful? Do you feel relaxed and at ease? Are you happy? If you have answered yes to any of these questions, then I'd like to congratulate you. That means you are awakened. Today is the 19th of October, and we are in the Rising Tide Meditation Hall. Today is the first day of our 3 months Rains Retreat 2025-2026. The tradition of Rains Retreat has existed long ago. However, for Plum Village tradition, we have still been able to maintain it. We still have maintained the 90-day Rains Retreat. For other places, many places have reduced their times, and some don't have this chance at all. So for us, in order to come here, for our friends who have signed up to stay for 3 months, please raise your hand. Raise up high. 7, 8. We have 8 friends, and I'd like to congratulate 8 of you that you have this chance to have Rains Retreat with us. Let us congratulate our 8 friends. I would like to share a little bit about the Rains Retreat. So let's take a historical trip 2,600 years ago during the Buddha's time. Actually, this tradition, it used to be the Rains Retreat was in the summer retreat, because in India at the time, it actually didn't originate from Buddhism, but it already existed from existing spiritual traditions. Like the Brahmin tradition. I think the translation is Jain's tradition. I already asked him in advance if he had any technical terms, and he said no. Asceticism, people who want to live a simple life. And we also have other traditions. Like the word he just said, they have practiced this for many years ago, and when it was the rainy season in India, it was Jainism. I had a good guess. Okay, anyways, technical issue. I think sometimes there's a small feedback sound or something. So when it was the rainy season, the monsoon season, other spirit traditions already practiced this. The first reason is because they have to go for alms round to ask for food, and in exchange they would offer spiritual teachings to teach people how to transform their suffering. But in the monsoon season, the paths would be muddy, and there's not many places to take refuge in when it's rainy and wet. And when it's rainy, then there's many worms and other insects and snails that come out, and if we travel, then we may accidentally kill many of these small living beings. And so that is why many spiritual traditions chose to reside in one place during the duration of the rainy season. And during the Buddha's time, before they established the rains retreat tradition, the Buddhist monks continued to travel, and they were frowned upon by other lay friends and other traditions. And they would say, aren't you a tradition of like compassion and loving kindness and protecting life? If you are, then how come you're not residing in one spot to protect lives, to protect living beings like the snails and the worms that come out during the monsoon season? So the spirit of the rains retreat that we have is not just for these two reasons, but it is also to delve deeper into our spiritual life, to enrich our spiritual life, and also to really strengthen the practice of harmony, of harmony in community living, in community life. And at the end of the rains retreat, the monks and nuns, we would ask other monks and nuns who are living with for guidance and for feedback. So that is the difference between Buddhism, the way Buddhists practice the 3 months rains retreat, and then other spiritual traditions. We want to really enrich and enhance our mindfulness, concentration, and insight. So we just took a mini trip to India, and now we will come back to Plum Village tradition. So when our teacher Tai founded Plum Village in France, he changed the season. So in France, it's not rainy and cold and wet in the summer like it is in the monsoon season in Asia. So Tai changed the season into winter. We are quite fortunate. Actually, last night it was very rainy. We had a strong downpour, and luckily this morning there's sunshine, and maybe we are treated with good weather this morning. So for rains retreat in the Plum Village tradition, we change rooms, meaning all of the monks and nuns, we rotate rooms. We don't stick to one room. So usually every year we change our rooms. When we change rooms, this is to renew ourselves, because when we stay put in one room or one spot for too long, then sometimes there's moss and roots that take place, meaning we become attached to our spot, or we become attached to our roommates. So that's why we need to clean up. And when we clean up and we move rooms, we have a big box, and we put it in the middle of the corridor, and it is called the letting go box. Meaning, as we're cleaning, if you feel you have an extra pair of shoes, or you have an extra notebook, or an extra iPhone, then you can put all of these items in the letting go box. And anyone who is lacking these items, they can feel free to come and pick up these items. He's teasing and saying he's never seen an iPhone in the letting go box yet. But it is a joyous occasion. Because when we let go of something, somebody else picks it back up. And then the next day when you go to a new room, you can recognize your old items. So this is a chance for us to kind of filter out and renew ourselves. Today, I have a chance to share with the community about the different practices to help us prepare for the spirit of the Rains Retreat. Perhaps some of you will be able to reside for 90 days with the monastics, and there are also neighbors. We have some uncles and aunties who live nearby, and we also have friends who come for personal retreats for the weekend or for the week, or maybe you may come once a month. You can all benefit from these practices, these teachings. I see there are two things we need to be aware of and to be concerned of. How can we reorganize? He prefers reorganizing. So basically, we need to look back at take a spiritual inventory to see what we need to renew in ourselves. The first is external things. He would like to write it on the whiteboard so we can follow along. We can temporarily call this as external. What is it in English? Out of form. Okay. He said, is that correct? I don't know if he's asking a rhetorical question or what, but he says his English is not great, so he's double checking with us. First thing is, this is something that everyone will need to do, and it is called practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness in our daily lives. Actually, we are already practicing. However, maybe we haven't been practicing thoroughly. Sometimes I feel like I'm rather embarrassed and there's a term in Central Vietnamese, the accent, which means that we are embarrassed or ashamed. For example, Tai has taught us that when we walk, we don't talk. When we talk, we don't walk. Who is able to accomplish this? No one. It is extremely difficult. It's simple. It seems easy, but it's actually quite difficult. To practice noble silence at 9:30. To practice noble silence, to not speak. Who can practice it? 100%. I raise my hand. I'm teasing him. He said it's very difficult, even though it seems simple. What about eating meditation? Sometimes I see many people may serve their food. In the morning, we serve apples, right? Nobody's responding. What, are there apples? Yes, there are apples. And usually when we cut out the apples, we eat it all. But we just leave behind the core in the middle because of the seeds. But some people are very unmindful and they just cut in a very wasteful way, and there's still a lot of edible apple parts left. That is a part of practicing mindfulness, because we are wasting food. See? It seems like a trivial thing. One time I saw this and I took that piece of core and I cut away some more of the remaining apple bits, because I thought, why do we have to throw this away? That's being wasteful. But usually when we do that, nobody else wants to eat it. But when I cut it, I still covered it. I didn't want other people to see that I am practicing, like, to put up a show, like, I am practicing so well. I don't want other people to think I'm trying to practice, because otherwise it's kind of embarrassing to attract attention like this. And then when we look at our plate, after we look at our plate, if it's beautiful, is it presentable? Sometimes when people finish eating, you can see at the plate and it looks gross because the food's all mixed up, there's leftovers, it doesn't look as presentable. We can already practice this at lunchtime today. That is the small, the fine details of practicing mindfulness. And there are those who eat, but they are not aware that when they took their tissue paper, the napkin, they just take an excess of napkins. Actually, one napkin should be enough, but some people take 3 or 4 pieces of napkins because it's free. It's the monastery that gives it for free. For our brother here, he said, let me check to see if I have a napkin in my pocket, to give an example. I don't eat. Every time I take a napkin, I always fold it up beautifully like this. Even after I wipe my mouth, I put it on the table, it's still beautiful. I don't crumple it up like this. I need to make it beautiful and presentable. I learned this from one of our venerables. When that venerable finished eating, in Vietnam, there are many savory delicacies that are wrapped up in banana leaves. And even after our venerable finished the food that was wrapped in banana leaves, he didn't crumple up the banana leaves. He folded it beautifully. He said, I wonder if something's up because I'm a little bit worried. It seems kind of wobbly. He says it's too dangerous. He doesn't want it to collapse while he's sitting on it. That is practicing mindfulness. I need to move on to the next topic before I run out of time because there's a lot of things to cover. Oh. He said he thinks he misspelled it. The next one is to organize things in a neat and organized way. Tidy. And clean. Right? I think it's clean. But he threw in an extra free R for us. Okay, everybody wants to practice. Does anybody want to be messy? No, nobody wants to be messy. So yesterday, I cleared the woodshed along with two of their friends. It's been abandoned for a long time, and we take things and we leave things, but we don't really clean up that area. So our brother work coordinator told me to go clean up that area, and that I had the full rights to do as I pleased. So yesterday was the first day that I started to clean it. But what about in our room? Usually Americans have the luxury of living one person per room. And for Vietnamese Americans, maybe this is also something common now. So if you are alone in your room, you can do things as you please. However, if you live in a tidy and clean way, then we are respecting ourselves. But if we live in a messy way, then we are not showing enough respect for ourselves. The other day at the orientation, I shared with our friends that I'm training. When I train aspirants, I train them. The first thing they need to do is to fold their blankets. Let me ask you, who wakes up and doesn't fold their blanket? Other people, you don't have blankets to fold, is that right? I didn't catch if you said if you fold or if you don't fold. Do you fold your blanket after you wake up? Sometimes. This is a habit. In our room, it needs to always be clean and tidy. Sometimes we think no one's gonna go into my room, no one's gonna see how I live, which is true to some extent, but that is showing respect to ourselves. So we are practicing for ourselves, we're not practicing for others. And if we are tidy and clean, then that is when we live in a clean and tidy way, then it is a kind of a demeanor or a manner or a style, and it helps build our conduct. So just a disclaimer, anything that I share here, it doesn't mean that I'm already accomplished and well and above everyone. I'm also practicing as well. The next one is letting go of material objects. He said, is it correct? I said no, but I'm in the back. Okay, now is it correct? Oh no, I'm teaching mindfulness. Someone pointed out clean doesn't have R. Thank you. Thank you, dear community. Yes, you need to remind me like this. Then that will help me to remember. We need to let go of our material goods. Some of our material goods. So I invite everyone, when you return home today, open up your storage or your things, and you can take a quick inventory. You can see how many pairs of clothes are you actually wearing, how many pairs of clothes you've never worn, and if there are things that you have bought a long time ago and you didn't even remember that you had it, that you still have it. You can look at your shoes. You can take a quick inventory. How many pairs of shoes do you have? How many pairs do you actually use? How many pairs do you seldom use? And how many pairs have you never used? So we have to say that in America, we are very good at marketing. After we see an advertisement or we see something at the store, we immediately want to buy it. And even though sometimes we're at home, you see things on Amazon, we keep scrolling and scrolling, and then we want to buy. Our fingers are now experts at scrolling and at buying online. Even though we already have enough, we still want to buy more. And after we buy it, we don't use most of the things we buy, and our houses become more crowded and filled with material goods. And maybe it's because our house is too big, so that's why we don't notice how we're crowding up our house with material goods. So whatever we don't use, we can offer to others or bring it to Goodwill, or there are places that may accept old items. We can let go so we can feel lighter. Don't bring it to the monastery though. You can let it go elsewhere. This goes along with this. He said, how do we translate this into English? I wonder why didn't you just give it to me beforehand? Few desires. Is this correct? What is the next term? Chito? Knowing that we have enough. Is a literal translation. Even if I don't expand on this, you already know, right? There are two things. There's a difference between wanting something and needing something. When we need something, it is something that gives us a basic life. We need to have it. For example, if we already have a pair of shoes but it's a bit torn, then what we need is to buy a new pair of shoes in order to replace the current pair of shoes that we're using, that we're wearing. But our desires, what we want, is different. We already have enough, but we still want more because there are many options. And because we can. So those are two different things: wanting, desiring, and needing. So before we buy something, we can ask, do we need this, or is it because we want it? Is it desire? To be honest with you, sometimes our monastics, we are also easily fall into traps online as well. For example, with the cold weather fast approaching, we can see a good deal online for jackets. Then of course we will easily think, oh, maybe I need a new jacket. But then we can also re-examine to see, do we actually need it? We can say, oh, actually I already have this. I don't need this. I don't want it. So sometimes we think, oh, but it's brown. Oh, but it's perfect for Plum Village. That's our color, brown. And it's actually kind of hard to come by. And it looks good. And then we fall into the trap. So, dear community, I have also just bought a jacket. But I told myself very clearly, this I need it. And so I bought it. And so, of course, in the storage we also have some jackets. But if we are very clear with ourselves of what we want and what we need, and if we need it, we can buy just one. And if you see me about to buy a second one, remember to stop me and remind me. Wow, there's so many things. Are we able to practice this all? Eating in moderation. Wow, how scary. So, dear community, does anyone have a craving or really loves instant noodles? Just be courageous and be honest. What about our monastics? You have to be honest. It doesn't seem like everyone is honest. I think there are many monastics, right? How come I don't see any monastics who raise their hands? Personally, I don't really like it. But if I don't eat it, then once in a while I'll have a craving. And so I will allow myself. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks or a month I'll eat it once. But after I eat it, then my stomach will react. And I know it's not good for my stomach, for my digestion. But if I have a craving, sometimes we still want to eat it. Eating and drinking in moderation is very difficult because we live to eat. And when we are faced with a table filled with delicious foods, it would be very difficult. Even though we practice deep breathing in, deep breathing out, sometimes we still cave in. It can be quite difficult. So we need to really listen to our body's needs. There are things that our bodies really don't need, but we still intake it. In America, we have fast food readily available for us that contains a lot of sugar. And it's not good for our bodies. Sometimes we know that it will increase our weight, but because of the taste, because it's so delicious, we cave in. And after eating, sometimes we regret it. And sometimes we tell ourselves, oh, I wish I hadn't eaten that. So we need to be courageous to see. It's very strange. The more toxic the food or drinks are, the better and the more appealing it is, the more tasty it is. And it makes us cave in very easily. Next one is exercise. Here, I only see Sister Help Im, who does the stick exercises. Some will practice yoga, some will go walking. There are many ways of exercising. However, to say that we're lazy, it may seem like it's heavy, but sometimes it's quite accurate. Maybe if we are concerned about our health, we take good care of ourselves, and that is how we love ourselves. For those who have experienced bodily pain, that is when they take their health seriously. Because even if you are rich, if you don't have good health, you can't do anything. If you have a lot of money, sure, you can buy the best beds, the best material goods, but you can't really buy good health. Money can buy you a big house. But when you die, you cannot bring your house with you. You can no longer live in that house. And there are plenty of other things. So exercising is a very crucial part. I know when I share this, maybe it's difficult for some of you to receive. Usually, if you're over 30, 40, 50, sure, maybe you'll agree. But if you're 18, 20, 15, you can think, I'm super healthy. I'm super, I don't know, Superman, Superwoman, super person. So I used to think like this. So I know. That then I realized that was the greatest mistake. And now I have to rethink this. To not take our good health for granted. Next one is to make your personalized schedule. So for our rains retreat, we have a schedule, a practice schedule. So for those of you who are here at the monastery, it's quite easy. You just follow the monastery schedule. But at home, you'll need to create your own practice schedule. Now let me ask everyone here, who practices sitting meditation at home on your own? Raise your hand high. There are those who say, at home, I'm too busy. I'm overwhelmed and flooded with work. I have absolutely no time to practice. So we have to fight in order to have time in order to practice. But actually, work will never end. Even when we die, there is still work that is left undone. It will never end. And one day, we only have 24 hours. Only 24 hours. And if you have one day that is 48 hours, you would still be as busy as you were when it was just 24 hours. Because 48 hours is 2 days. And so we need to prioritize our practice schedule, basically so that it's non-negotiable. If we say, I don't have time to practice, did you have time to breathe? Do you have time to walk? Do you have time to eat? To take a shower or a bath? You have to clean yourself. So the monks and nuns, we do the same thing. We work, we walk, we sit, we eat, we also clean ourselves, we also sleep. The only difference is that we put our mind into whatever we're doing. And suddenly you will have a lot of time because you're already applying mindfulness, enhancing it in everything that you already are doing. Otherwise, we will complain and say, oh my God, why, or why, and why. He said, okay, write this down, okay, because I'm going to erase it. Now we will move on to the second part. Now, so previously we spoke about external things, and now we will speak about internal things. Or inner mind. This is the difficult one. First thing we need to master is the art of accepting. Acceptance. Is this correct? Accept what? Accept ourselves. That is the first thing, to accept ourselves. Why do we need to accept ourselves? Because if you don't accept yourself, you can't really do anything else. Usually, we look at others and we compare ourselves with others. To some extent, that's a great thing because that gives us a chance to progress, to become a better person, a better version of ourselves. But on the other downside, we may suffer because we will compare and we will think the other person is better and we are not as good as they are. Why are they so much better at their studies or their grades? They're good at every aspect, but how come I'm not as good as they are? But actually, everyone is asking this question because we are comparing ourselves with others. And that is a mistake because we will drown in suffering. So we need to learn how to accept ourselves just as we are. Accept ourselves. We shouldn't try to compare ourselves with others. The second thing is to accept others as they are. You said, is this right? Ourselves, others, ourselves, and others. The third one is the situation. So first of all, we need to learn how to accept ourselves. The second is to accept others. And the third is to accept the situation. Or the environment. Sometimes we need to accept people just as they are, to practice unconditional acceptance. We often have high expectations and demands of others. They have to be according to our liking. Especially if we love the other person, the more we love them, the more we have a higher expectation that they must understand us. That is why our loved ones are the ones who we think create the most suffering for us. Our close ones, supposedly our most close loved ones, they seem to create the most suffering for us. And there are families where siblings aren't able to talk to each other, partners aren't able to look at each other. If that person is there, then I will not be there. And they will declare things like this. If we go on an outing or to a dinner, and if the other person is there, don't bother to invite me. We are unable to accept the other person. But actually, it just means that we are unable to accept ourselves. If you are able to accept yourself, that means you can accept anyone else. Third one is to accept the situations. We have a saying in Asia which is, sometimes it's rainy, sometimes it's sunny. And we are no different. We actually have a tendency to only like sunny weather and not rainy weather. But that also includes happiness and suffering. But how can we live in such a way where we can have peace in a society where there are countless changes, endless changes? How can you live in a way where you're always peaceful no matter what the external conditions are? So we have to ask ourselves, have we tried our absolute best, our very best? If the answer is yes, I have tried my absolute best, but it still doesn't seem to work out, then you have to learn how to learn to live in harmony with the person or the situation, with what it is, because that is our capacity. In life, there are three things that we can be concerned about. That is your issues, other people's issues, and other than the world, I guess, world affairs. We tend to neglect our own issues, and we tend to only be nosy about other people's issues. The third one is kind of like things that are outside of our control. The most important thing is to come back to ourselves and take care of ourselves. And let other people take care of their issues. If it's other people's business, why should we be nosy and why should we try to bother to intervene? The second thing is to practice happily accepting. First thing is to learn how to happily accept things that are not according to our liking. This is difficult. When things are favorable, things are successful, and it's easy, then sure, it's easy to be happy. But what if we fall upon unfortunate situations which are not according to our liking? Should we just sit there and cry and blame everyone and everything else? And then we'll just drown in suffering. If things don't go according to our liking, we can still practice being accepting. So we can only practice this with right view. It's not like feigning a smile of acceptance. Feigning a smile doesn't really make us happy because inside we're still dying. So that is not helpful. So the second thing is when the other person is better than us or does something better, to do things better than ourselves, or if they have they seem to be more intelligent or more beautiful, usually we will fall into jealousy when we compare like this. To be honest, our monastics, whenever somebody is accomplished, I'm very happy for them. If they are good chefs, then yeah, that's great. We should be happy because then that means we have good food. If somebody gives a great Dharma talk, then what? I'm very happy because then we get to listen to a good talk. And we don't need to give a lot of Dharma talks either. So when other people accomplish things, we should learn how to be happy. Happy for them. Happy for the greater good. If somebody else is successful in the company, we should give them well wishes. But we should be sincere. We shouldn't feign congratulations. Sometimes people are sarcastic or kind of mean in their backhanded compliments. And if somebody is beautiful or handsome, who is more attractive than us, usually we may feel uncomfortable and we want to be better than them. But for what? We just like to do that. So let us look deeply, look carefully, and learn the art of happily accepting things as they are. We should learn how to be joyful with other people's joy. When they accomplish something, we should congratulate them and be happy for them. Or we should be sincere. I think my hour is up. I will try to finish up. I have one more thing. Can I erase it yet? Happily accepting or being joyful, to have joy. After this Dharma talk, if there's time, I will offer you a song. First word here is to let go. Earlier we spoke about letting go of material goods, but here we are letting go of what? Of our worries, of our fear. Maybe in the past we have made mistakes, or we've had unskillfulnesses, mistakes. Or maybe other people have created suffering for ourselves. We should learn how to let go of these grievances. Why? Because you're the only one who knows the depth of your suffering. Other people may not know and also may not care. So you are basically like a ticking bomb, and you can blow up at any moment if we don't learn how to let go of our past suffering. And it is also true with fear. Sometimes fear and worry has entered us in a very profound way, where it becomes like a crippling fear. And we may have worry for our future, for our projects. There was a friend who shared with me that I'm very worried about the US economy. I don't know how my life will be. And so I asked, well, what is your life like right now? And she said, it's pretty good. Everything is still smooth. And so I told them, why are you worried? She said, but I'm still very worried. You see suffering, but right now you have a stable job, your children are well, but then now we are not enjoying what we currently have, and we are just getting lost in worries about the future, which is uncertain. That is something that we cannot control, but what we can enjoy in the present moment, what is well, that is good, that is going on well, we don't enjoy it and savor it. So when we always so whatever work we do, we try to savor what is working well, so that we water what is working well instead of just watering fear. The next thing we should let go of is so he's going up to write it in English, worry and fear. The next one is hatred. He said it is hate. So hatred and anger. In the sutras, the Buddha's teachings, the example is that if you have hatred or anger, it is like having a sharp blade hidden inside you. And one day this blade will protrude. And it is extremely dangerous. Actually, this tiny blade, it isn't a blade where you use against other people. It is a blade that hurts yourself. So worry and fear and hatred, other people don't know about your hatred, but your hatred is something that you live with. Now, if we sit here and we think about the past, 10 years ago, somebody came and maybe slapped us across our face. and we were filled with anger and hatred. But after they left, they completely forgot that they ever even slapped us. So every time we remember this, it is an extra slap. So if you remember this incident 10 times, then basically you're getting an extra 10 slaps. Every time we relive that moment, we are slapped again. And this in our brain, it is called a neural pathway. When we think about a negative thing, it would become a neural pathway. And the more we think about it, the more well-worn this neural path becomes. And the hatred, the worry, the fear, it grows in us. And we always remember this. So we should recognize that hatred and anger is very dangerous for us. And we should learn how to let go. What else should we let go of? Unnecessary work. What is considered unnecessary work? We have so much work. But there are unnecessary work and necessary work, and we need to filter out what needs to be done today and what can be done tomorrow. And then we can focus instead of multitasking everything and try to squeeze everything in one day. And then even if it's 3 days, we will not accomplish anything. So that is why we need to filter things out. After we're done with one thing, then we move to the next thing. Now, we have high technology. Back then, with computers, with our laptops, before laptops, we had PC and Windows, and if you put too many softwares into your laptop and you multitask and use many of the programs at once, if you open up Photoshop and then you open up Premiere and then many softwares working all at once, then what do you think? Then you will see this familiar circle. What does that mean? Or why? Because it doesn't have enough memory or storage to help. So we have to finish one task before it goes to the next task. Because it's just too much for it. So we are the same. Our brains are the same. We have a limit, and we have to know what our limit is so we don't overexert ourselves. Otherwise, we will crash. This is the most difficult one. Saving the hardest for last. Ooh, what will he translate this as? This is being stubborn in our views, thinking that our view is correct. We are right. I'm right, you're wrong. We are very stuck in our view, our personal view. When we have a friend, or even if it's your child, or your parents, or your siblings, if they come and they remind you about your mistake, so we need to actually thank these courageous people who remind us, because normally if we think that that person is not receptive, then we normally will not bother to remind them, because who wants to bother with people's poor reactions? So we should thank anyone who reminds us or shows us something differently. And if we become stubborn and we don't want to accept anything else other than our view, we think that what I see is correct. My way is the highway. and everything else everyone tells me is incorrect, then that means we are stuck in our views of being right and wrong. But in this world, there are really no actually true views of right and wrong. It's just different perspectives and different experiences. So when we live with each other, even if something is wrong, wrong becomes right, and sometimes right becomes wrong. There is a couple. There was a wife and husband, and when they were speaking with each other, the wife said, "Oh, so they often have arguments." And they said, "So how do you resolve arguments? How do you know when is it right and when is it wrong, and what do you do?" So they asked me this question, and I said, for a husband and a wife, when the husband feels that if you're right, that means you're wrong. And when the husband sees that we are wrong, that means you are right. Because you will never win an argument with your wife. Because even if you win, you actually have lost. And when you've lost, quote unquote, you've actually won. So that is the art of living in order to maintain the harmony in the family. Being right and wrong is just superficial level. But if you are skillful, then you will see that these things are very trivial and very normal, mundane. They're very normal. That is why now we have these practices. First thing we need to practice is to be present. It means to be present and to live fully in the present moment. To be truly present for each other. What do you think if there is a husband who is speaking with their wife, but he's always holding his phone, he's always looking at the news, and he's just saying yes, yes, yeah, whatever. He's not really being present. Or if the husband is speaking to the wife and she's like, yeah, okay, and she's doing her makeup as he's talking. And maybe she doesn't really care about what the husband is saying. And then we equally feel like we're speaking to the wall. Once in a while, when I go out to Walmart, sometimes I see sometimes there's friends who will say, "How are you doing?" Right? Sometimes they will ask me, "How are you doing?" And I'm about to respond, but they've already left. They don't really need to hear my response. They're just saying, "How are you doing?" as a greeting, and then they just walk off to do their work. And I was ready to say, "I'm good," and I was going to ask them, "How are you?" But I didn't even manage to slip that in, and they already went off. And that is a habit energy that maybe we often have in America. So being present for each other is very crucial. Our children really need our parents' presence, their parents' presence. So we shouldn't be greedy or be preoccupied and carried away by our work and to forget our loved ones, forget our family and our children, and neglect our loved ones so that they wilt with the years and the months. The second practice is to live in a gentle way. To practice to live in a gentle way. And to live more slowly. And to keep our mind tranquil and peaceful. And the last thing is to have loving kindness. We live in a very fast-paced way, and when the car is going too quickly, then we cannot truly enjoy the scenery. And when the car is moving at a slow pace, then we can truly enjoy the scenery. That is why when we practice walking meditation, we walk more slowly. Why don't we walk this quickly? Why do we go at such a slow pace? It is so we can truly enjoy and savor each step, and to savor the beautiful scenery around us, to enjoy ourselves as well. That is why it is crucial to slow down. I made a song which is, "Oh my dear, slow down. Look at the flowers on the side of the road." When you walk quickly, then you also pass by a lot of love. So slow down. Maybe later when you exit the hall, you can look around and see, are there any flowers that are smiling with you? Maybe the flower is waving hello at you, but you're completely oblivious. So try it out, okay, to see if anyone's greeting you. Keep your mind peaceful. It is a way for us to practice. Life is like strong waves, and we get crushed under the waves. But if we keep our minds peaceful, then we're able to withstand everything. Tai has a calligraphy which is sit solidly, everything will pass. Let us give it a try to see if things will pass. If not, then deal with it on your own and don't come to me for complaints, because I'm not going to be held responsible. Last one is loving kindness. It is a practice of love, but this is unconditional love. Love here does not mean to have expectations. So it doesn't mean that we keep tabs and we say, oh, I gave you something today, tomorrow you're going to give me something back. This kind of love that we give out, it is like when we scatter bird feed for birds, or when we feed fish, we don't expect anything back, anything in return. And love never says, this is the last. This is a little bit hard. I haven't been able to accomplish this yet, but I will also try. However, love means we don't pre-calculate. So these are things that I would like to share with everyone today. This is what I would like to offer for the first Dharma talk in this Rains Retreat. Do we have time for a song? No time for a song because the ceremony's at 11:30 and it is already 11:10 and we need to reset the hall.